Someone asked you recently what you did over the weekend, and you told them. You stayed home. You made something to eat. You read, or you walked, or you sat somewhere quiet and did not do very much at all. And you watched their face do the thing faces do, the slight recalibration, the polite smile that does not quite know what to do with that answer, and you felt, for a moment, the familiar pressure to explain yourself, to add something that would make it sound like more, to justify a weekend that felt, to you, like exactly what you needed, but required no justification at all. You have been getting this your entire life, the subtle implication that wanting less is a sign of something missing, that the people filling their weekends with plans and their lives with noise are somehow more alive than you are, that craving quiet is a personality flaw dressed up as a preference. Psychology says something completely different. And it turns out the research on what quiet people are actually doing with their nervous systems is one of the most consistently surprising findings in the field. Because the brain that craves quiet is not a brain that has given up. It is a brain that has figured something out, that most people around it are still trying to learn. 1. What your nervous system is actually telling you. Your brain is constantly processing information. Every sound, every movement in your peripheral vision, every social signal from every person in the room, every notification, every demand, every piece of input from the environment around you. Most of this processing happens below the level of conscious awareness. Your brain is doing it automatically, whether you want it to or not. And all of that processing has a cost. A measurable neurological cost that shows up in your cortisol levels, your cognitive performance, your emotional regulation, and your ability to think clearly. Researchers studying sensory processing found something consistent across multiple studies. People who seek out quiet environments are not less stimulated than people who seek out noise. They are more accurately aware of their own stimulation levels. They have a more finely calibrated sense of when their system is approaching its limit. And they respond to that signal by doing something most people are never taught to do. They give the system what it is asking for. Instead of overriding it, instead of pushing through, instead of interpreting the signal as a problem to be solved rather than information to be received. The craving for quiet is not weakness. It is the nervous system communicating with unusual precision. And the person who listens to that communication, who takes it seriously, who builds their life around what their system actually needs rather than what the culture says it should want, is not falling behind. They are operating in alignment. And alignment is rarer than most people realize. 2. The specific intelligence that quiet builds. Here is what happens in a quiet life that cannot happen in a noisy one. The brain finally has access to its own deeper processes. Psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi spent decades studying what he called flow, the state of deep, absorbed engagement in which a person is fully present, fully functioning, and producing their best thinking. Flow does not happen in noise. It does not happen in distraction. It does not happen when the brain is managing 20 simultaneous inputs and trying to stay socially appropriate at the same time. It happens in quiet, in the specific conditions that most people are actively avoiding, because quiet feels, to a brain that has been trained on stimulation, like something is missing, when what is actually missing is the noise, and what is actually present, for the first time, is the depth of the person's own thinking. People who crave quiet are people whose brains are trying to access that depth, who are uncomfortable when the noise prevents it, who feel the specific frustration of a mind that wants to go somewhere it cannot go because the environment will not let it. That frustration is not introversion in the simple sense. It is the intelligence of a brain that knows what it needs to do its best work and keeps trying to create the conditions for it. 3. What they actually do in the quiet. Because here's what most people assume about quiet people: that the quiet is empty, that they are resting in the passive sense, doing nothing, going nowhere, waiting for life to happen. The inside of a quiet person's life looks nothing like this. In the quiet, they are processing everything that the noise prevented them from processing. The conversation from 3 days ago that they are still turning over. The problem they have been circling for weeks that suddenly has a new angle in the stillness. The feeling they have been carrying without a name that finally surfaces when there is space for it to arrive. The idea that was forming underneath everything else, that could not fully form until the noise stopped long enough for it to complete itself. Research on what psychologists call the default mode network, the brain's resting state activity, found that this network is not resting at all. It is doing some of the most sophisticated cognitive work the brain is capable of: creative synthesis, self-reflection, long-range planning, the integration of disparate information into coherent understanding. All of this happens in the quiet and is actively suppressed by noise. The person who protects their quiet is not avoiding life. They are protecting the conditions under which their most important thinking happens. Stop here, because something needs to be said. If you have spent years absorbing the message that wanting a quiet life means you are not ambitious enough, not social enough, not living fully enough, I want to say something directly about that message. It was never based on any evidence. The assumption that more activity equals more life is a cultural preference dressed up as a universal truth. Psychology does not support it. Neuroscience does not support it. The research on well-being, on creative output, on cognitive performance, on emotional health consistently points in the opposite direction. The quality of your inner life matters more than the volume of your outer one. And the person who has invested in their inner life, who has protected the quiet that allows it to develop, who has resisted the cultural pressure to fill every moment with noise, has built something that the person with the packed calendar and the full social life is very often quietly searching for and cannot find, because they have not stopped long enough to look. You were not behind. You were building something different, and it turns out something better. Stay with me. 4. Why this is not avoidance. Because there is a version of quiet that is avoidance. That is worth naming honestly. The quiet that keeps you from things you need to engage with. The stillness that is really withdrawal. The alone time that is about hiding rather than restoring. That version exists, and it is worth being honest with yourself about whether what you are protecting is genuine restoration or whether the quiet has become a way of not facing something. But for most people who genuinely crave quiet, this is not what is happening. The difference is in how the quiet feels afterward. Avoidance leaves you smaller, more anxious, more disconnected from yourself and the life you actually want. Restoration leaves you larger, more present, more capable of the engagement that actually matters to you. If the quiet makes you more yourself, more able to connect, to think, to create, to be present with the people who matter, it is not avoidance, it is maintenance. The specific, necessary maintenance of a system that requires certain conditions to function at its best. And recognizing the difference between those two things is itself a form of self-knowledge that most people never develop, because they never stop long enough to ask the question. 5. What the quiet life actually produces. The person who builds a quiet life is not producing less, they are producing differently, with a consistency and a depth that the person who is always in motion rarely achieves, because the quiet life creates something that noise destroys. Continuity of thought, the ability to follow an idea somewhere, to sit with a problem until it reveals itself, to develop a relationship with your own mind that goes somewhere over time rather than skimming the surface of 100 different things. The people who have changed how the world thinks, who have created things that lasted, who have understood something deeply enough to say something true about it, have almost universally protected their quiet. Not because they were antisocial, because they understood that the work required conditions, and the conditions required protection. You are not producing less by wanting a quiet life. You are protecting the conditions under which you produce what actually matters. To you, not to the culture, not to the people who need your life to look a certain way to feel comfortable with their own. To you. And that is the most intelligent thing a person can do. Build a life that works for the mind they actually have, rather than the one they were told they should want. The people who crave a boring and quiet life are not the ones who have given up. They are the ones who have figured something out, that the noise was never the point, that the busyness was never evidence of a life being lived, that the calendar full of plans, and the group chat that never goes quiet, and the constant motion of a socially full life is not the same thing as a life that is full. The quiet is not empty. It never was. It is where your best thinking happens, where your actual self lives, where the things that matter most to you have enough space to be known. You do not owe anyone an exciting weekend. You do not owe anyone a life that looks a certain way from the outside. You owe yourself the conditions under which you actually function, under which you are actually present, under which the version of you that is most fully yourself finally has enough room to exist. The boring life is not a consolation prize. It is a choice that most people are not smart enough to make, or not brave enough to protect. You made it, and you are still making it every quiet evening, every unhurried morning, every weekend that needed no explanation, because it was exactly what it was supposed to be. What is the one thing about your quiet life that you would not trade for anything? Drop it in the comments, because someone reading your answer has been apologizing for the same thing and needs to hear that it was never something to apologize for. It was always something to protect.